How to Train Your Dragon director addresses live-action Astrid casting controversy. We're crafting a fantasy, not historical fact.
Same old, isn't it?
Yep. Okay, so that argument works both ways, by the way. Then if you're not, then why would you do it with other things?
Well, what's it got to do with changing the source material, though? Like, that was also a fantasy. At least stay honest to that.
I just wish they'd be honest just one time and say, look, we've got quotas that we have to meet for this sort of thing. We don't care, you don't care, but we have to do it.
To tick. Yeah, boxes to tick.
Yes, because ultimately, if it doesn't matter, then it shouldn't matter. The doctor should still be a dude. Astrid should have blonde hair. If it doesn't matter, then it shouldn't fucking matter. But it does. And Drinker's right. They're not honest. And that's exactly why they did it.
It's gaslighting.
Yeah, it's total gaslighting.
It's not only Astrid that they've done this to. They're doing it to Fish Legs as well. And they're trying to make him look like Fish Legs in all other things, but he doesn't have blonde hair. And, he's obviously wearing a wig already. Why are you just not adapting it accurately? They're going out of their way to change it.
But then they're doing shot-for-shot remake of certain scenes, which is
baffling.
The argument of the whole why do you care so much argument always comes out when they get what they want.
Yeah.
Once they've got their characters changed to whatever demographics they want, then they start saying, well, why do you care so much? Well, you obviously cared enough to want to change them in the first place. So why did you care so much? Why was it so important to you?
Yeah, but also you want me to care that much. Like, you want my money.
Exactly. And also, why do you care that I care? Will be a good answer to that. I mean, at the end of the day.
What the director actually says when you read his response, it was reply to somebody on Instagram. Effectively, he says that in all of our screen testings, we were looking for chemistry and who best represents like the character, and this is who we chose. It felt very similar to me to what the reason for Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman in the Batman was. And I think she did a solid job. I actually liked her a lot in the Batman, her character, and I thought she had good chemistry. But then the one thing that makes me question if that was actually true was the one line about the rich white people in this city. So it makes me wonder: is that really the reason that you cast her, or was it really because of the chemistry she had and how she played the character? When it comes to Nico Parker, it's sad that Garrett isn't here, but Nico Parker is a quarter black. Nico Parker's mother is Tandy Newton, who her mother was, I think, from Zimbabwe, and her dad was a white British man, so a British man. And then Nico Parker's father is also white. So I think she's a quarter black when you look at what her heritage is. She doesn't look like Astrid, certainly.
Can I jump in on that? Because if you actually look at her facial structure, she has a kind of rounded jaw that actually has similar appearance to the Astrid animation. And I actually think she could actually play and resemble Astrid quite well if they just gave her blonde hair.
Yeah,
exactly.
If they gave her blonde hair, that would probably work.
The skin is like, it's pale enough.
Her skin, she's not dark-skinned or anything, yes.
The reason we're talking about this, though, is because Hollywood made it an issue. If this was in isolation 10 years ago, nobody give a fuck. But Hollywood made it an issue with their diversity initiatives, which were exclusionary. And Gingerside's real. Let's not, Astrid isn't ginger, but Gingerside's actually absolutely real. And it was their attitude. And we're like, hey, we didn't think this was a big deal at first, but then you made it a big deal. So when we call it out, all of a sudden we're the fucking enemies. You're the guys who are fucking putting everybody into categories and then having to hit check boxes. And Drinker's right. The reason this decision was made is because they had to check some boxes. And I was told by a very good source, it was the craziest thing I ever heard. So I had to ask twice, like, why Pedro was cast as Reed Richards. And the dude told me it's because he's white passing. So these are things they say to each other behind the scenes. These are real fucking things. He is a white passing diverse person. What the fuck?
This is simply a question of immersion. To get immersed in any environment, you have to believe, on an almost subconscious level, that everything fits into place. If you're watching Lord of the Rings and a Ferrari drives through an army, it's going to break you out of the film. If you're watching Vikings and they don't all look like Vikings, it's not going to immerse you in the environment because you're like, that's not out of place. It's like when you were watching Gladiator, like, well, that didn't exist in history. It didn't bother me because I didn't know about it, but to you, pulled you out of the movie. So you have to make it as believable as possible.
Well, it's like remaking Roots and putting Asian people in it, or or white people. Like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's just a show. It's just a TV show. It's not supposed to be.
And like ultimately, I know, even though like a lot of people in our space are talking about this right now, I don't know if this is going to have the same kind of backlash had for Disney, like Disney Little Mermaid or Rachel's. I don't think it's going to come anywhere close to that, in my opinion. I actually think it's pretty isolated to our section of the internet right now that's talking about this. If the movie is like the trailer that they just showed, I actually think that the movie's going to do incredibly fucking well.
Really? Because
if they reshoot the movie shot for shot, it'll probably do well. Ryan's right, and that's fucking horrible. I think the biggest issue with the fucking How to Train Your Dragon is they're remaking fucking animated shows from the last fucking decade or whatever in live action and not making any fucking new movies. That's the problem.
What the director actually said, he said it's not going to be a shot for shot remake, but he said when they wanted to do this, when they wanted to make this in a live action, I wanted to work on it to make sure it happened right.
But the fact is, like, this is being greenlit over other stuff that might be better. Like, again, adapt a fucking book that hasn't been adapted yet. If you want to go draw off of something, I don't know, in a different world, adapt Elric. Do something. Bring back Conan. Do something.
Right. I'm actually a massive fan of the original How to Train Your Dragon.
It's a fantastic movie.
I consider it a near masterpiece, near perfect. Like there are so many great emotional beats, the delivery of the voice acting, everything like that. That if they're going to try and make a copy of this, they need to mix it up somehow because there's the only result, you're going to be making a scene-for-scene remake, and check it out. This is basically what they're doing, right? The only result then is it's going to be an inferior copy of the original. Look at the emotional difference. Look at how Hiccup is reacting here versus the acting. It has so much more depth and feeling in it, where this live-action one feels like a soulless copy. It feels like, and I hate it. I genuinely do not like what we're seeing here, because we're missing out on some really important elements that it conveyed so much. Because in animation, they can exaggerate those emotions and scenes a little bit more, and you can't capture that nearly as well in the live action. And so I really think if they were planning on trying to make a live action one, they needed to actually, instead of making it look like a live action version of the animated, they should have actually made it a bit more realistic.
I disagree with that last point wholeheartedly. I think it was the perfect idea for them to bring these to make them look like the dragons look in animation, rather than to make make it look like a fucking House of the Dragon.
Yeah,
I would be more interested if they did
play
that.
so much better.
I don't know. To me, I see this and I'm just disappointed as a fan.
Because you can give this thing emotion. So in these live action remakes, one of the things that we always do complain about, whether it's fucking Little Mermaid or Lion King, which
especially
is
Lion King,
is the fact that they just make Sebastian just looks like a dumbass fucking crab, right? There is no emotion.
Hyper realistic.
This is the right way to go when you're talking about stuff like that, because to me,
I agree.
like being able to see Toothless's expressions and things like that are so important.
Well, I'm not saying change him completely, but I'm thinking there could be a middle ground where you make him a little bit more realistic in a live action setting, right? Instead, because when I see this, I see I can just watch the original. It's exactly the same, but the original is better, has better emotional expressions and everything.
I could just watch The Wicked play.
Just
that's
stop
the
doing live
danger.
actions of things where half of it is CGI anyway, and half the characters in it are CGI. Like, at least adapt things that you can actually adapt to live action, rather than there was no point in this if most of some of the main characters are CGI.
Right?
Yep. Well, but I think it's going to make a lot of money. I do. I don't know if that's great for.
It's something to take your kids to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so most of those.
I'll check it out.
Movies are.
How to Train Your Dragon is not some mega blockbuster, right? It came out 10 years ago, and they made $500 to $600 million at the box office. All three of them, in one way, shape, or form, right around there. So it's not like we're talking about Frozen or Frozen 2, right? These billion-dollar movies. But it does have a super hardcore following post-release in terms of video-on-demand sales, in terms of merchandise sales, stuff like that. I think that's one of the reasons they decided to do it, obviously, for money.
It had a cultural footprint, something the Avatar films have not.
It did. Yeah. And
Interesting, that, isn't it?
if you're going to ask me, do I need a live action? No, I don't. But if you're going to make one, I would try to make it as close to the animated, the beloved animated one that everyone loves. I would try to make it as close as I can to that, including these scenes that look so reminiscent from these very remarkable scenes that stand out to you. I'd want to make that shot for shot. Now, what I'd also want to do is make sure the characters fucking look like each other.
What are you getting out of the new film then? What are you actually gaining out of it being in live action?
I might not be getting anything, but if you're talking about if they want to remake that, there's a score of people out there that have no interest in watching a fucking cartoon.
Maybe
I think live action carries more weight, and I think it's more easily to get immersed in it than animation. Like one of the things that I liked in Jack Reacher, the opening scene where he walks in the cafe, they did an advertisement where they read the actual description from the book and showed you side by side, and it was exactly the same.
Yeah.
I like the shot by shot.
I think that's fine. It's like when you're starting off with something that was already an animated movie, like there's a target audience for that, and I don't know if you necessarily gain much by then translating it into live action, because it's like you're still going to want to target that same level of audience. If it's a kids animated movie, you're going to want kids to watch your live action version. It's just a way of recycling the same story, the same plot beats and everything.
Yep. Yeah, if you think about the Spider-Verse films, those films have done well for what they are, but they're nowhere near what the live action Spider-Man films have done. So clearly there's a lot more audience that's willing to go see the live action versus the animated. I think that makes a good point there.
Maybe like we'll have to see. You guys might be right. I as a big fan of the original, I just look at this and I get pissed.
I love all three of them. I think that those three movies are awesome. The first one, nothing can really match the first one, but
the first one is
the other day.
They're good.
Yeah.
I just know it took me a long time to get into anime because I had that exact I don't want to watch a cartoon kind of thing, and it was the quality of the story and the plots that actually drew me in rather than the animation style. But if I had those things in live action, I'd watch the live action any day.
I mean, but they're actually trying to make the live action look in a goofy way like the original. Like, have a look at this image of Toothless, right? Just sharing it now. They're trying to make it look it's so much like the animation, a goofy way that
some things don't adapt.
You mean fish legs, not Toothless?
Yeah, fish legs. Sorry,
it's like Cowboy Bebop.
I mean, obviously, what you're seeing there is a set photo as well, so I don't know what they're going to do to him CGI wise.
He's a big fat, like he's super fat in the cartoon.
I mean, I like that they're trying to capture the charm, but then it's like, doesn't that undermine the potential appeal of the live action aspect, that it's more legitimate? If people see that, it's like, oh, it's a live action cartoon essentially, and it's still a goofy kids thing. And I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I get what you're saying. And if you take it to this extreme, then this is where you start to cross the line from like it's not live action believability anymore. It just looks like a cartoon.
I think it depends on the property.
What did people think about One Piece? They thought that was too silly and too ridiculous, or
good point.
I would say I can't compare it to the anime or anything because I haven't seen the anime. Okay. So
One Piece was so much more. The live action was so much more approachable because it was shorter and more condensed. To me, this is it's a film, and they're probably gonna. I don't see anything.
One Piece thread the needle like perfectly. Like they really did a good job. It could have been goofy as hell. And like when I first saw the trailers, I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I only saw it by accident. I was on the plane watching Az get ripped for his pronouns thing, and I'm like, all right, I've watched that for a couple hours, and I'm gonna watch something.
No, but One Piece is a good point to bring up. So,
yes, it is.
I could be wrong.
I oftentimes kind of try to look outside just our space of like how people are reacting to shit. That's why I thought that Wicked was going to be a massive success, even though a bunch of people thought Cynthia Erivo may have, she's going to make this movie flop. Because I just didn't think that's what the vast majority of people felt. And looking at the reaction to How to Train Your Dragon so far, I think that most people like the trailer that they've seen. We'll see what happens, and we'll see what they might put into it. And if there's bullshit, hey, we find out this is the reason they cast Astrid. Who knows? That can all change.
This is the reason, you watch other channels, and you also watch the shit we're covering. Like that's what's important, because then you actually know, and then you get the truth.
Nerdrotic.com. Please subscribe.